welcome to the Best Forking Friends podcast. I'm your host, Jesi. With us tonight, we have our friends Etch,
Yeah.
Kyle,
Hello.
Joel, and calling in remote, we've got James. He's been on previous podcasts with us before. So
I'm here.
okay. So tonight, our title is Say What Now? So, first question, or I guess I should ask everybody how they're doing. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping the gun there.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
It's the weekend, so it's great.
Yeah.
Ditto.
How are you feeling, James?
No complaints.
Good, good. I'm glad everybody's here and we're ready to chat and hang out. So, back to where I was. First question, funniest conspiracy theory you've heard or most elaborate one? Anybody have any thoughts or want to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I like the birds aren't real. Birds are all government operated. Spy cameras and microphones.
Hold on.
What?
Say what?
Right. Have you never heard this one
I've
before?
never heard this one before.
What? No way.
Really, Kyle?
Hold
I
on.
really haven't.
Hold on. So, and before I go on, James, have you heard about the birds aren't real theory?
No, never.
Oh my God.
Oh, man. You got a couple.
I've
Hey,
heard this
Joel, you
one.
got a
All
couple
right.
new ones.
Yeah. So
Now,
talk us through it, Joel.
I'm not an expert in it, but here's what I understand. First and foremost, the guy who came up with the theory did it purely to as a science experiment to see if people would buy into it. So he created just this theory that birds weren't real, that they're all spy cameras, and they recharge by sitting on power lines. Right? Like they're always wondering, why do they stand on those power lines? Because they're recharging.
Re-energizing, right?
Yeah.
It's like a Tesla.
I don't know.
Plug it
Yeah,
in.
I don't know much
I
else
like
other
that
than
technology.
But people have bought into it, and it was kind of like this. Gosh, I wish I knew more about the
It
intricacies.
was like a joke, wasn't it?
It was just meant to be
Yeah.
like a not gullible, but how easy is it to convince people of something if you can make it sound plausible enough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's the guy who did it. He did like a whole TED talk on it, and he doesn't tell people at first that he's the one who created it. He talks about it, and then at the end he's like, "And this was all made up by me." Like it's kind of bizarre.
And people actually believe it. Like, that's the crazy part to me, I think. Like, people think it's real.
Yeah. So that's the one. So we always make the joke, like whenever we see birds or something, like they're not real anyway. They're just government cameras, government spies. I'll have to look up some more on that. I guess that wasn't a great explanation, but
No.
I think it was sufficient.
There's actually a commercial. Have you seen a commercial these days with cameras that they've got flying around like birds, talking about trying to tell you that you're being spied on by everybody?
no.
This is what this conspiracy theory sounds like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And by the way, I actually kind of buy that there's not really much privacy anymore. We talked about that in a previous
Yeah.
episode, right?
Mhm.
So
I mean, I'd be more amped to believe that maybe some of the birds aren't real. You know, if
Well,
you
'cause
told
if
me
it was
maybe
all of
you're,
them,
you're
then that'd be too obvious, right?
yeah, you're just sprinkling in a few fake ones to spy. I could believe that, but that they're all fake is
The guy who did it he has billboards that he put up. It's just say birds aren't real. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now, and I'm trying to see if I can find. So I made a satirical movement a few months ago, and people on Instagram seem to like it a lot. And the support claims that all birds in the United States were exterminated by the federal government between 1959 and 1971 and replaced by look-alike drones used by the government to spy on citizens. The specifics of these theories are not always consistent, not unlike actual conspiracy theories. They claim that birds sit on power lines to recharge themselves. that birds defecate on cars as a tracking method, and that U.S. President John Kennedy was assassinated by the government due to his reluctance to kill all the birds.
Well, a lot of this
Well,
is making
obviously.
sense to me
Obviously.
because a lot of birds poop on my car.
Yeah, they're
right?
tracking you.
Trying
dude.
to track me.
They're watching you.
I see a hell of a lot of birds on the fucking poles, right? And you always hear that the government's like 50 to 60 years more advanced than you think. So if I was to tell you right now we can make a drone bird that would sit on a pole and charge, you'd be like, okay, I can believe that.
Yeah.
But 50 years ago, you'd be like, what?
But killing all of the birds.
That's the
That's
part.
easy.
Killing all the
That's
birds.
the
There's
easy
no
part.
way.
That's the easy
No,
part.
And what's
listen,
chicken?
Where did the
listen.
bodies go?
How do you target just birds?
Yeah,
During
how do you
extermination?
target just birds?
Smog.
And also,
it's a smog in the air
the
that
effect
humans
of
can't get to.
not having birds on nature, like
Yeah.
they are part of the life cycle.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no way that
the
we could go
ecosystem.
without birds.
Yep. I agree.
And Joel had a great point. I don't know if everyone heard it. What about all the chickens? I eat chicken
I eat chicken all the time.
all the time.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
government supply, those
What
government
am I
spy drones are
actually
so
eating?
good.
Well, and then all those, if you notice, like all those trees that grow, like where birds hang out and they poop, and then the seeds get in the ground, and
Yeah.
there's trees growing there.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
unless these drones are like spreading seeds too,
Maybe
Yeah.
they are, dude. Maybe it,
dude, that's a theory, right?
It just goes deeper and
Drones
deeper.
spreading seeds.
dude, Jason's gonna be like, maybe they aren't real. Like he's gonna have dreams about it and everything. So did you have anything else to contribute to that, James?
No. I'm sorry.
That's probably the best.
Okay,
It's
okay.
ridiculous.
Who's got another one?
All right. Here's the wildest one I've ever heard of. I'd never heard of that one. So,
I
So-
have heard of that one.
the European Organization for Nuclear Research, also known as CERN, they discovered the Higgs boson particle in 2012. And some people believe that they inadvertently created a black hole and the Earth was sucked into it. And so they basically believe that the world ended in 2012, which you might remember was when I think the Mayan,
The Mayan calendar.
Uh-huh.
And we all just haven't realized it yet.
Yeah, well, I've heard that before, and if you go back, there's certain things that you can, if you go back and you can trace it, that it's there's some Mandela effects can go back to before then and then after then have changed, and that's the theory is that we've been trapped in a black hole and went to a different dimension. So there's subtle parts that are different.
So that's causing the Mandela effects.
Yes, I've heard that theory that it was that had something.
Does that include the Berenstain Bears?
Yes.
Oh, dude.
I'm not saying there's specific ones. There's a bunch of different ones, but yes, that's
Okay.
one of them.
James, that's my trigger one.
I swear.
What's triggered about it?
I
Like it's.
swear it used to be Berenstain Bears.
I
Me
agree.
too.
I agree.
Me too.
But that's something that I've read and seen that relates to that. Is that something like that effect, and it took us to a different dimension to where like no one really noticed, but there were certain little subtle changes in history.
Like Fruit of the Looms logo.
Yes,
The
and
cornucopia.
I remember that too. And they're saying it's never existed. I am not that old, damn it, and I'm not that senile. This shit existed.
Okay, but
Uh-huh.
but can we all agree that even if we're in a different dimension or reality now, the world didn't end because we're here? We're
No,
talking-
it didn't end. It just
I mean,
went to a
that's-
different dimension.
That's
Yeah,
part of
they're
this
saying
theory.
it's the black hole part, right?
They're
Like,
saying
it's
that we
not.
went into the black hole, the world has ended, but we haven't realized it yet.
See, I would
that's the
believe
part
it
where
more
you're
if it
losing.
was more like what Etch was saying, like a multidimensional
Yeah.
black hole.
So
That's
how
what
do we?
I've heard.
How are we gonna know?
You don't.
Well, you don't exist anymore. You're either if you
Oh, if we died, well, yeah. I mean, that's pretty easy.
either it's your nothingness, and if that's your belief system, or you're hanging out with the angels, or you're hanging out with the pitchfork guy. I mean,
But the latter two are experiential, so there's something akin to existence, right?
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like I'm.
Which might be our existence, as we know it, in the black hole,
Yeah,
like Kubrick style.
dude. We're all in a simulation anyway, right? Isn't that kind
That's
of
another one of the ever since the Matrix.
Yeah,
That's
what
been
if
a
that's the case?
legit
Then
conspiracy
How does the
theory.
black hole fit in?
We're all
Well,
just go ahead.
If we are in a simulation, give me the cheat codes to some money. That's all I want, dude. There's cheat codes. Seriously,
That's
if
the
we
money, dude.
if you
Yeah.
think about it, we've always played games, right?
Yeah.
And there's simulations. There's always cheat codes. If we live in a simulation, there has got to be a cheat code.
Cheat code to life.
Sure.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
got to be. I mean, it could be for whatever you want. There's got to be a cheat code.
We call them
The fact is,
yeah.
we got to figure out this cheat code. And I feel like with these brains that we got around here, we can make this possible.
this think tank right here is so strong. We can figure that out. Yeah.
So I will say there is some evidence
Of
of
What?
this conspiracy theory.
Okay, so
the
what's
first
their
one or the
The CERN one, the black hole.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's their logic?
It's on YouTube as a video,
okay.
so it must be true.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. It's on the interwebs. Everything on the interwebs is real.
I have another one. Can I just jump in for another one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You could take mine because I have nothing.
How about flat earthers? People
Oh,
who think
dude.
that the Earth
Oh
is
my
flat.
gosh.
The more I research, the more I believe we are living in a igloo, like a shake glue thing. You know what I'm
A
saying?
snow globe.
Yeah, we're living
You're
a
a
flat
flat
Earth
earther?
snow globe guy. Simpsons movie. That's what we're living in.
Okay. Okay.
It's such a coincidence you mentioned The Simpsons because I have one related to The Simpsons.
All
Oh,
right.
go ahead,
Later.
James. Go
It's-
ahead.
I don't know if it totally qualifies, but it's related.
Shoot.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you all heard it, or have heard about the Bart's Dead episode, the lost episode from season 1,
No.
where Bart gets sucked out of a plane.
I have not heard it.
And so I think that helps explain the absurdist trajectory of the series, that it's all just kind of not real after that.
And that's
Oh,
why like
'cause he's
everybody
really
stays the
dead?
same age for 30 years.
Maybe so.
No, I haven't heard that, but you mentioned The Simpsons. I don't know. This isn't a conspiracy theory, but every time some sort of a world event happens, they're like The Simpsons predicted.
I was
this."
just gonna bring this up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like James, is there anything in that conspiracy theory that also talks about things like that?
I think those are separate. I think there's multiple Simpsons theories circulating out there.
So my favorite on that line, Joel, is someone thinking that it's like a Back to the Future deal where someone went to the future, found out all the events, and came back to the past and put it in Simpsons episodes.
Yeah, but also if you go back, so I was convinced that they were doing this, and it was like a Super Bowl a couple years ago that they supposedly predicted. So I actually went back and tried to find the episode with that in it, and I couldn't find one. So I think some of it is people manipulating the media. You know what I'm saying? Like making it. I think they've taken a few instances that are kind of like similar,
And turned
then
it into something else.
and now it's spiraled out of control where people are manipulating episodes and putting stuff together to make it seem like they're predicting the future when
That's
really
very possible.
they're not really doing anything. That's my theory.
I suppose if you create 35 years worth of cartoons,
Exactly.
eventually you're going to be right on
Something's
maybe
gonna
a
be
few
similar.
things.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you could take those
Yeah.
few things.
That's like
and
the
run
law,
with it.
the law of large numbers. But
Right.
I cannot imagine how they could have predicted that a real estate magnate would become the president of the United States 20 years before
Yeah.
he ever expressed any interest in politics.
True.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Do I believe that any of this conspiracy theory? No.
Yeah.
But it is
It is kind of crazy.
It is-
Eerily, yeah.
something
there-
to make you go,
There's also one more conspiracy theory that one of the writers is a time traveler.
yeah,
Of
that's
The
what,
Simpsons?
Yeah.
that's what I was referring to before.
Yeah, when you were saying that,
Has that
I've
writer
heard
been
that before
identified?
too. Like, sorry, what?
Has that writer been identified?
No,
in
no
the
one's
conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no one's ever said specifically who it was, but that's apparently why they're so accurate in predicting future events.
Interesting, because I know they've had several different rounds of writers, because they used to have a lot of Ivy League educated folks, and they've kind of gone away from that a little bit, and some people have commented, like media scholars, on how that influences the way that class is represented on The Simpsons. But anyway, I'm curious now about the writer conspiracy theory.
I don't
Well, I
know.
think if you dug deep, you could probably figure out who's been a writer for a long time there. I mean, I feel like that's all public knowledge.
It's public knowledge in
Right.
the sense that you see the credit on the screen, but have you seen the person doing the writing? They could just change their pseudonym.
Yeah,
Like,
guess
let's-
they
Maybe
could.
they got Miss Cleo.
That's the nature of a that's the nature of a conspiracy
Yeah,
theory, right?
exactly.
You take
Down
every
then.
piece of information and twist it to fit
Yeah.
fit your theory, no matter what, right?
And if they're doing it, they're good at it because it's been going on for so long and no one really knows what's going on, right?
Right.
So
right.
you're good at what you're doing.
Well,
at
it's
that
kind of
point.
like South Park in a way. Like South Park, like does satire against current events. The Simpsons, some of the things that they've predicted. I mean, that could generally be followed by things that are happening. Like they could be following current events and just kind of be like, "Oh, this is probably likely going to happen," and we'll just throw it in an episode.
Get lucky.
so,
Yeah.
so
Keep
then
hitting.
did those things actually happen because they suggested it and put it
Oh,
out
you
into the
think
universe?
like a like
And
a
and
if
if they
had-
universe
if they
thing.
hadn't written an episode about it, maybe it never would have happened. Never would have gotten people's minds to make those decisions.
Like an altered universe
Yeah.
kind of thing.
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Dude, there's so many theories.
I
to
have a
this.
question, y'all.
Yes.
How are we defining conspiracy theory? Because the name itself implies a conspiracy. Like folks are conspiring to keep something secret. But some of the theories I think we're tossing out there don't necessarily require, or at least some that I can think of, don't necessarily require people conspiring. It's just something bizarre that not everybody knows.
Yeah, I'd probably agree
I
with
think
that.
we've added some things in just, that are kind of similar in topic. But yeah, conspiracy theory, I would think of as, I think we're going more on the lighter side of it for this series, but just anything that's been made up that people believe or there's like a bandwagon effect and people think that it's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
Well, and the conspiracy part is that it's implied that there's a group of people that are making all this stuff happen that the
And have a
general-
belief in it.
that the general public doesn't know about, and so because they're not aware of it, they don't make decisions based off of it being true. And then there's this group of people who think that they are aware of this special information. It's like Gnosticism. It's like knowing this special knowledge, and then and then there's some benefit. I guess I'm giving you my definition right now. Then there's some benefit to making the general public aware so that you can take down the deep state or the Illuminati or the the cabal or whatever, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know about you, James, but that's what I'm thinking about. So
With
even
the
with the
CERN
Simpsons,
theory-
you know,
Do people assume that CERN knows they created a black hole? Those who are doing that theorizing?
no, they don't.
Okay, so there's no conspiracy there in that case.
The conspiracy is that this group of people who control the world
Oh, okay.
managed to hide the fact that CERN was going to create this black hole, or hide the fact that CERN did create this black hole. So maybe they know. I don't know because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, man. I just don't know.
So why do you think people are drawn to conspiracy theories?
That's a good question.
I think it's because it makes shit interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
It just, I mean,
Like the lure of it?
yeah. Because some things, even, so if you think about, some things crazy things just happen and it's a crazy thing, right? But people always need more. Like, if something crazy happens, they need more. And I feel like there's times when it's just a coincidence and there's times when there's actually more to it.
Yeah.
But then we just take everything and it's like, there's got to be more to it. It can't just be that easy. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think there's a couple things happening. I think it's like the ones that are creating it, whether, if it's intentional, I think it's getting attention thing.
Oh, for sure.
And then I think the ones that are jumping on the bandwagon are want to be followers and want to be part of something, like part of a group.
Belonging.
Yeah,
Yes.
belonging. So they
Mhm.
they just jump head first, and that's all they know,
be
and
a part
that's
of
all that's
something,
real.
yeah.
And yeah,
So
because
so piggybacking off of belonging
mhm.
is it's not I think it's not just belonging, but it's belonging to the group of people who have some kind of secret knowledge that makes them
like feel special.
feel special.
Yeah, because they think they know
Exactly.
more than
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
agree. I agree.
Wait, like a religion?
Just like yes,
Hey,
I was not missing
Well,
that
it's
connection.
it's adjacent to cults,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
Cults,
they
religions,
are fully
beliefs,
in
they
belief
all-
of this person's
yep.
theories, and they all think that that's the truth, end all be all.
Like
you know?
nothing against religions. Like really, there's
There's a very big difference
Am I
between
not-
religion and cults.
what are you? What do you give me a Colombian necktie right
I'm
now?
joking.
Anyway.
I agree with you.
No, like I think everything you guys all said pretty much sums like why people buy into them. I also think people inherently like drama, and hearing a story that sounds crazy and yet kind of sounds like it could be true. I mean, think about things that have actually happened in our lifetime that were, like the phrase "the truth is stranger than fiction" it, like can apply to it. And so when things like that actually happen, you start to think, when you hear about these other, we'll just say conspiracy theories or bizarre theories on stuff, like you start to think, hey, maybe there could be some merit to it, especially if you're somebody who's maybe open-minded enough to not like to, well, it could be one of two ways, right? You might be open-minded enough to be like, it could possibly be, but I'd like to see more evidence. But then you've got the other school of thought, which is, it sounds good enough to me, I'm just gonna go with it. And people who just they don't need to necessarily hear anymore, I don't know. Goes into
Or
a lot of other
There
things.
could be instances where they stumble upon a conspiracy theory that is close to what they had already been thinking about something,
Sure.
and then they feel validated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, like
Mhm.
that's totally what I was thinking, and yeah.
I think another aspect that can come into play sometimes is when big events happen, people like to find explanations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't. I don't think people feel comfortable just, yeah, that happened, and I don't really understand why that happened or how that's possible. I can see that it happened. I don't understand how it could have happened, right? And so you come up with an elaborate story,
Yeah,
right?
to make things make sense.
And connecting to the religious aspect, which, this is ironic coming from me as probably the most religious person sitting on this call. I don't know where you stand, James, but coming from the religious aspect, you think a lot of what people believe, you talk about flat earthers, a lot of what people believed in history is because they didn't have the information to know any better.
So they had to make up.
And so they made up explanations that in some cases turned into religious beliefs, right? So when new information came that challenged those religious beliefs, you get the story of Galileo, or you get, whatever, where you run into issues like that. And
You're
so-
kind of connecting what I was thinking too as you were talking. It's a comfort place for fear, right? So they're creating this world or something in a way that they can understand something that's unknown to them. So, there's the fear of the unknown, right? So I think a lot of these theories come from trying to bring their own comfort
Yeah.
from that fear.
I got to say this, and this is maybe a bit of a hot take.
we
Okay.
love those here.
I'm going to say this. I think it's cool to have an open mind and try to understand what and I'm just using this as a blanket term for any of these topics, whether it's conspiracy or just a bizarre coincidence. I think it's okay to have a healthy level of open-mindedness and curiosity to learn more about it. But I often find that it seems like very ignorant people who don't care to learn anymore or try to find, we'll call it fact find, are the ones who prescribe to conspiracy theories and bizarre theories the most. And that, and boy, trying to have a conversation with somebody when they are just so fixated on what they believe in that theory or theories, and even trying to reason or understand like their perspective on it, it can be really frustrating. So it's like, I guess if I was going to say something to anybody who's listening, like it's cool if you want to believe something, just be open-minded to what other people have to say, and I don't know, maybe try not to get heated or whatever, or be open, just be cool. Yeah. We don't have to agree on everything we believe, but I like to learn about stuff like that. So
yeah.
All right, there we go.
Me personally,
PSA over.
I'd say you need to do your research. If you come to
Like
any
real
argument,
research.
yeah, if
Which
you
is
come to
more
any
than Google.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't go to Google. I do a lot more than
Algorithms
that.
feed what they know you're going to want to see.
Facts.
So if they know
Exactly.
that you follow, if you like fried chicken and you're trying to find recipes,
chicken.
We're all gonna have fried chicken in our feeds now.
then it's going to try to
The birds don't exist,
Yeah, I
guys.
was gonna
Right,
say,
I
we're
forgot.
just gonna
Dang
say
it.
there's
Forgot
no
about the
chickens.
chicken. Dang it.
There's no chickens.
There's no chickens.
Fried cameras. Fried cameras.
Fried cameras. But I'm just saying, like, if the search engines and we'll just say big data knows that you like things, it's going to keep feeding those things to you because it keeps you coming back. It keeps validating your feelings, and so you don't feel like you're wrong.
It
And
monetizes your feelings.
yeah, right. Like, and I'm not, again, I don't want to get super religious or political, but if I look at my Facebook feed and I pull up my wife's Facebook feed, we are very similar, but we have a lot. If I look at her Facebook feed, it's different. The stuff that's being aimed at her for ads and everything. If I look at Jason's, if I look at Kyle's, they're all different because we're all different people. So whenever you start liking something, especially if you go down these rabbit holes of conspiracy theories or anything you're interested in, that's what's going to pop up. I can't tell you how many Pokemon-related things pop up in my Facebook feed because I like Pokemon. I like Pokemon cards and all that stuff.
Big booty bitches pop up on mine.
Of
Get
course
with
they
it.
do. Of course they do. Anyway, so there we go.
Let's let James answer that. So
Yeah.
James, why do you think people are drawn to conspiracy theories?
Everything that you all have mentioned so far seems to check out. I guess I would just add that concentrations of power do exist. There's people with political, economic power, and sometimes they do conspire to ensure they continue to monopolize that power. And so, there's some legitimacy to a belief in conspiracies that I think lends itself to conspiracy theorizing.
Yeah.
And then also, I think generally people struggle with not being able to exercise agency over their own lives to the degree that they'd like to. And so conspiracy theories offer some explanation as to why that's the case, as opposed to an explanation of the conditions and structural factors and the way that institutions operate that maybe impede agency. So there's that. And then also, somebody alluded to this already, but some of those who propagate conspiracy theories, they do so in self-serving sort of ways because they can profit from it, or they can, get people's attention and indirectly profit.
Yep.
So I'll ask you this too, then, James. So why do you think like the internet and socials contribute to conspiracies? Like power, why do you think they contribute?
I mean, the algorithms is one reason. And I think the ad-driven business model kind of exacerbates that. That's what folks were kind of referencing there with Facebook, right? Facebook and Google, or Meta now, and Google, right? They've done quite a bit of damage to journalism because journalism historically relied on advertising for revenue, which was a model that had its problems for sure, but with the advent of the internet and then those platforms, advertisers, third-party clients really like them because they can collect your data, right? Whether user-generated content or what you're searching for, and then target you with ads. So the advertisers have the ability to target, and then they're doing that in feeding you the things that they think you want in that filter bubble, like we talked about. Uh, but then in addition to that, in online spheres, there's a lot of nonsense that circulates, and I don't think people necessarily have been taught the kind of critical media literacy skills or critical internet
Yeah.
literacy skills that would allow them to kind of sort through and determine, what's been empirically verified and what's not. And then also just like information overload, and it's hard to do the research individually to really
To weed it out.
investigate and interrogate some of the ideas out there. And it's easier just to be like, oh yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really love that answer, James.
Yeah.
and I would just add to it, piggyback off it, that there's also an aspect of, especially on the social media, is people share information that you trust. So if I trust Jesi and she shares some kind of information that says the earth is flat or we're in a black hole,
That we're eating chicken
that
cameras.
we're eating chicken cameras, I'm going to give that more credibility because Jesi said it. Even if she just saw a meme and was like, oh yeah, that sounds right, and shared it without even thinking about it for half a second, right? I'm like, oh yeah, Jesi thinks that too.
I don't know.
And-
I'm pretty sketchy.
and I
Kyle.
trust. Well, I know that's why I'm using you as an example because but I think that, and that goes back to the belonging too. But there's the, if it was just, you mentioned journalists, if it was just, a right wing or a left wing or a woo woo journalism, journalist source that just put it on their own site, that wouldn't have the same impact as this person that I trust and know that they're a reasonable person and that they're credible and that they mean something to me.
So you think it spreads faster?
And I believe, because then I believe it.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to believe it.
Yeah.
And then I might share it too.
Uh-huh.
And then it spreads because of that.
So you have more faith in it
exactly.
coming from someone that you know and trust.
Versus, if it's someone that I don't trust, like if I'm a right wing person and it's a left wing source, then I already don't trust it, or vice versa, then I'm more likely to think actually that's false. So, I mean, that's just kind of our how we're wired. So I really liked your answer, James.
Yeah. So Etch, what do you think? Like, how do you think the internet and socials contribute to conspiracies?
I mean, I feel like it's all been pretty much covered.
Yeah.
I've always thought that, like, the media is like, it's not as good as people think it is, because I think you can easily pass messages that aren't true, and if you get a big enough following, like you're all saying, it's a wave effect, and then it becomes out of control. Because a lot of people today, they're lazy. They don't want to go and figure out what's true, what's not true. Like, they don't want to do nothing for themselves. They just want to go to, like, kind of what Kyle said. I'm going to go to the closest person I relate to, who I trust, and going to go with their feeling. Well, what if they didn't do their research, or what if they don't know what they're talking about? And then before you know it, it spirals out, and some crazy theory is going out there that's not even close to true, just because it had enough. I think that's kind of
had enough following.
Yeah, I think that's the same with kind of cancel culture. It's like you get like one person who thinks, well, that's offensive, and then they have a friend that's like, well, you know what, that's kind of offensive, and then it's before you know it, they're canceled.
Escalates.
And it wasn't even nothing that big of a deal. So
Yeah.
I feel like, as much as I think it's a good thing, kind of, because it can spread news,
Yeah.
it's also a terrible thing because the fake news can be spread just as easily. So
Yeah.
you don't really know what's real or what's not real.
So I think the biggest impact that socials and the internet have had on conspiracy theories, because, there's been theories around forever, right? Is the speed at which they're communicated and accepted or not accepted. Because, whenever we had the news when we were younger, it was just our like local nightly news, and then we'd have like our national news, but it was hitting the high level stuff, political or otherwise. we weren't getting information basically shoved down our throats like we are now.
You picked Dan Rather's conspiracy theories or Walter Cronkite's conspiracy theories, and that's the ones you picked.
Right. Right. So I think it's just so much faster now with the ease at which everyone can receive information, because we all have computers in our hands, our phones, right? So we all see content constantly. So that's what I think the biggest impact is from those platforms.
And it even happens on a much more microcosm level. Like, we've been talking about these grand conspiracy theories, right?
Yeah.
But even in a local setting.
Oh
right?
boy.
Yeah.
So, James, you it's been a while since you've been here, but there's a Dollar General market here now, and it's going up next to where the milk house is, and it's almost ready to open. And when people started seeing construction there, the internet took off with all sorts of conspiracies on what's actually going there, who made the decisions, whether the city can choose the Dollar General or not, the Dollar General market or not, because we already have a Dollar General. And this whole thing of who's actually making the decisions all happened in little old Greenville, right? And it was just a real local example of of a global issue, right? So, yeah, people are crazy. I love people, but they're crazy sometimes.
Yeah. So, it's, if you guys are crazy enough, have you ever believed in a conspiracy theory, or, even just for like a moment?
Oh yeah, I believed in a few of them.
Which ones?
Kennedy was killed by our government. I fully believe in.
You do believe in that?
Oh yeah.
What makes you want to believe in it, or what? Why do you?
A lot of things. Well, because of what he wanted to spread, the news he wanted to tell us. I mean, if you go back, and I didn't do my research, I could get all my numbers and all that.
Is it because he didn't kill all the birds?
Well, that was the first thing.
Okay,
The fact that he was letting all the birds live.
That's one of many. Remember,
there's speeches that lead up to his good old entrance there to Texas that refers to him letting us know more about what's going on, right? Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't think it was. And then suddenly, papa, and then nobody really knows how he, and then the dude that shot him got killed, and there's just so many things that, I'm not saying that Oswald couldn't have killed him. I'm not saying that at all, but there's just so many holes in the story that makes me believe that there's more there. That's it.
So you're open to that explanation.
Yeah, I'm open.
But you're also open to the official explanation maybe being true, but you don't really think so.
No, yeah, exactly. That's
I'm
kind of
with
the way
you.
I'd put it. Yeah.
I'm with you on this, Etch, because
Yeah.
I kind of feel like there's not the whole story
Yeah.
been told on that either.
And that's kind of what got me into conspiracy theories, was the whole Kennedy
It's the
thing.
JFK one.
So I did a lot of like reading and watching, and I know everything you read and everything you watch isn't real. I know that, but that's why I'm a guy that likes to like take in as much information as I can.
yeah.
And try to defer for yourself.
Yes, I always will defer for myself. Am I always right? Probably not, but I'd rather take in as much information as I can and determine than, not everybody's going to know everything about that, or
I'm that way too.
Yeah.
I've seen documentaries and things on
Yeah.
it too, and they all have varying approaches to
Yep.
it, or information or whatever. And I've always kind of been like, what do I believe?
Yep.
There's so many things that you hear it one way and you're like, oh, that makes sense, and then you hear it another way and you're like, oh, that makes sense too. Like, so
There's a lot there.
Well, and I'll just say, with anything like this, just using this as an example, there's more than one possible explanation, but there's also more than two possible explanations.
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
So the conspiracy theory is that the government was behind it, right?
Mhm.
But there could be more to the story that everyone doesn't know,
Oh,
pointing to the
definitely.
holes, right?
Yes.
And also, it could still also be true that the government had nothing to do with it,
Exactly.
right?
There could be a side of the
So-
story that nobody even is approached. Like there
Yeah.
could be somebody from some other angle that shot him who no one even know. You know.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot there, and I feel like that's what brought me into like thinking about conspiracy theories. And there's always more to the story.
And I think the hardcore conspiracy theorist, in the way I define it, would, like, you're not a conspiracy theorist based off of what you've just said, because you're open to more than one explanation. You're
Yeah.
open to another explanation.
Yep.
I think the hardcore would say no, it's definitely the government.
Yeah, I'll never
Yeah.
say
Right.
that on anything.
And
Yeah.
and I think, to me at least, that's kind of a difference.
I
right?
think so too, because it really, I think our approach on the JFK thing is we're just looking for truth,
Yeah.
not whether we believe in one thing or another.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yo, what about this? What if the government's creating fake conspiracy theories to
Distract us.
distract us from what's actually going down for real? Whoa.
Well, that kind of
I believe that, too.
plays
I've heard that one
into
before, too.
something.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Like they're like,
That's
let's
an
create
actual
fake
theory.
things.
That plays into something I kind of believe. So I think that there are times in the news where they post things that get people's attention to distract them from other things that are going on.
Oh, they've did it. If you've noticed when certain things have happened at certain times,
There's a
something
distraction.
crazy will happen and they'll be like, oh, blah, blah, they'll throw that out there and then something will happen right after that and they'll just push it on the rug. So, yeah, I think they do that on purpose.
I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory, but I definitely, at least from my history classes, I have kind of a belief on like and I'm not like I said, not a huge history buff, so correct me if I'm wrong on some of these, but it feels like the United States in the past has liked getting involved in wars, and specifically, I'm gonna mention like World War I and World War II.
Mhm.
So, from what I understand, the reason the I guess maybe the straw that broke the camel's back for World War I was there was a ship, I think it was called the Lusitania, Mauritania, one of those two. We were supplying, I think, weapons to Great Britain or something like that. We weren't supposed to get shot, and it gets sank by like a U-boat or whatever they're called, the German submarines. Or
Yeah.
something. And so then, because we were hostilely attacked, it validates us getting involved in a war. Same thing with like World War II. We get bombed by Pearl Harbor, but we were kind of like, it feels like the government kind of like provokes it a little bit, but we don't want to throw the first punch. We're kind of like, for lack for better terms, we're kind of shit talking or getting somebody to throw the first punch, and then, okay, now we're coming for you. Like, and again, I don't know if that's necessarily a conspiracy theory or just like a strategy for how you get the people to back
Yes.
you on a war.
That's exactly what it is.
I mean,
That's exactly what it is. It's a
Yeah.
ploy.
yeah.
It's always, I mean, I can't sit here and say whatever. I mean, I've not been in the government for 50, 60 years, but
Right.
usually when you're doing those kind of things, you need backing, right? Because if no one backed them and they went to war, well, guess what? Who's paying? I mean, we're paying for the stuff, right? We're
It's all
going to work. We're
strategic.
doing the stuff. If they make it seem like they baited us, they attacked us, they're the enemies, right?
Right.
I'm gonna go to work harder, dude. I'm gonna go to work fucking 6 days, 7 days a week. They're attacking us, man.
Everybody talks about World War II and
Yeah.
how the country banded together.
Exactly.
Companies like did everything they can to support the war effort, and then we were, I'm gonna put in quotes here, the champions of World War II. I know that we were definitely not the only contributing factor to winning either war. We participated, helped out with it, and I don't. That's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. But I'm going to say something that happened more recently, and again, not necessarily conspiracy theory, But I feel like whenever the Twin Towers were bombed, it's a terrible tragedy.
Mhm.
I mean, the terrible thing that could happen, but it united us for a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so then the war on terrorism was, I think, very well generally supported by the masses because we were wronged, and so now we've got to
We were attacked. Right?
right, and
Yeah.
I don't
That
know.
was probably the last true time that America was united.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you the reason why in these bigger
think
wars,
about it.
yeah, why we've won.
Yeah,
Think about where these bigger wars were taking place. They weren't taking place in America. It wasn't our big cities getting bombed. It wasn't our big cities getting annihilated, right? So we were going and we were doing this stuff in other places, right? So that's how we come back to it. Regardless of people, we've lost people. You know what I'm saying? That's a tragedy. I'm not saying that's not.
right.
But we didn't have to rebuild afterwards.
In
So,
fact,
right?
we paid to rebuild Europe. We lent Europe
Yeah,
all the
because we
money,
didn't have to do nothing.
and then they paid us back by either through the loans or by buying all the materials from us. You know,
Like
So-
trade and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why we're the winner.
What's James? What do you got to weigh in on this?
I've been taking notes, jotting
Well,
some
he
things
can
down.
weigh in
that I
on
get
his
a chance
answer
to
for
That's why I like
project.
James.
Does he have a conspiracy
I guess-
theory that you've ever believed in?
Let me try to tackle a few things.
'Kay.
So something that Jess had mentioned about the government, dominant institutions putting out messaging that isn't exactly truthful. Like, that definitely happens, right? And we've seen it happen not too long ago, like during the height of the pandemic. The CDC government agencies initially said that masks aren't effective, right? Because I think they were worried about the supply. And then they flip-flopped and said they actually are useful. And then just thinking about the role of the government in generating consent for involvement in wars. People mentioned World War I. A big factor in getting the American public to support that war was not only criminalizing dissent, which happened. Eugene Debs, the guy with the Socialist Party, he got 1 million votes from prison. He spoke out against war, and then Charles Schenck was another labor leader organizer who was charged for distributing anti-war pamphlets. But then you had the Creel Commission, which was a propaganda arm of the government. And Wilson, right, had campaigned against intervention. And so you needed this engineering of consent, to use the term that Edward Bernays, one of the founding figures in public relations, that he popularized, and that Walter Lippmann, a famous establishment journalist who wrote for the New Republic and other outlets back in the day, who was also affiliated with the Creel Commission, he referred to the manufacturing of consent. And so that's what the Creel Commission did, was manufacture consent for World War I. And then I was just thinking about corporations and the way that they mislead the public and how that kind of plays into conspiracy theory. So like cigarette companies, right, for decades downplayed the harms of cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Fossil fuel companies, their own research suggested problems related to anthropogenic climate disruption, and they tried to conceal that. And then I do believe in some real conspiracies that don't get a lot of traction, maybe because they aren't like the conspiracy theories that serve those who disseminate them or those in power. Like, for example, people mentioned September 11th. Not a lot of people recall September 11th, 1973, when the U.S. government helped with the overthrow of the democratically elected leader of Chile, Salvador Allende, and helped install the Pinochet dictatorship, which was much more favorable to multinational corporate interests. And so, anyway, I think there's reasons. These are some of the reasons that people do believe in conspiracy theories, and it's also, I guess, some of the reasons why it's important to kind of have that historical understanding that we're kind of trying to put forward.
Dude, I knew you would know the details, James. That's why I was like, I know enough to be dangerous, but like, but James is he's a scholar. This guy knows his deets on things. So like, thank you for adding some more context to what I was saying there earlier.
So what about Kyle?
Happy to assist as I can.
So the other thing I would add, just to what you all have been saying, is you know, I don't think that everything is monocausal. In fact, I think hardly anything is monocausal. So there can be the manufacturing of consent, but that's just one piece. And that, you know,
Mhm.
you do that in order to get to a different result that you might have completely different motivations for. Some of your motivations might be fairly selfish. I want to go to war because, as a U.S. politician, because I think that will bring the country together, and I'll get reelected, and I'll keep my job, I'll keep my power, and that's a kind of a selfish, real motivation. But
Sure.
also, FDR, he wanted to go to war. At least part of his reasoning to go to war in World War II was atrocities were happening in Europe, and we should do something about that. You know, we should be a world contributor. You know, we shouldn't just let those things happen.
Looking at it as
Ever
a more
the big
like
brother.
but he's talking about being a big brother, but in a humane fashion, like trying to actually right wrongs.
Like when your neighbor's house is on fire, you help put the fire out,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't just sit at home and make sure that your house doesn't catch on fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the argument.
Right,
So,
like Nazi Germany's trying to take over the world. That's not really a great thing,
So-
at least in our eyes, right?
so in that case, you know, you put an oil embargo on the Axis powers, and that leads Japan to come bomb Pearl Harbor, and then you get into the war. There, you weren't looking for Japan necessarily to bomb Pearl Harbor, but you wanted to cut off the war machines that were creating these atrocities. And then one thing, you know, reaction, cause and effect, action and reaction. So there's not monocausal things going on in any of these things, I don't
Right.
think.
There's a lot of different moving parts,
And
right?
there can be good parts, good motivations, and also not so good motivations. And that's just the nature of being human, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's what I got to say about that.
Do
What
you
was-
think part of the appeal of conspiracy theories is they tend to be maybe more monocausal and simplify explanations of things?
Yes.
I agree.
It's simple. It's easy
Yes.
to understand.
Yep.
Simplified explanation.
People like simple explanations to everything. If it's complicated, they don't want nothing to do with it.
That's right.
Yeah. It
They
goes
don't
back
want
to
look, like I said
sometimes-
earlier. They don't. No. Most people don't want to do the research. If it's complicated, guess
Yeah.
what you got to do? You gotta read. You gotta do your thing, right? You can't just
It goes back to what I said earlier, that it resolves a fear for people
yeah.
Well,
whenever it's narrowed into something they can understand.
I think it can go two ways in a negative fashion. One is if it's simple, it's easy to understand. That's all I need to know, and I'm good on that topic. Like the not me perspective, but I know a lot of people who also prescribe to the I am going to go down this rabbit hole, and through again, like we mentioned earlier, these algorithms, they'll believe they've put in the research by following the breadcrumbs of whatever the internet has decided to feed them,
Yeah.
and it'll validate them. So it can be simplified for some people, but then the people who do go down the rabbit hole can sometimes feel even more validated.
Yeah.
I spent hours
I got you.
research on this,
It's true.
and
Well,
I
just don't
believe
do-
it even more now because
There's so much more
17 different websites and 5 different professional people have done their research, and here's the facts and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
I get it. But all I could say is the internet's not your only means of information.
Yeah.
So like I don't
Right.
deem everything I do. I don't go to Google and type in every information. I'm going to type this in Google and I'm going to figure it out because I've learned over time Google ain't my best friend.
Yeah.
He ain't going to tell me everything I need to know.
Google
I
is
want to know the truth, bro.
Google is the okay. I'm just gonna say, and maybe this is maybe another hot take. I love Google. Google
Oh,
gives
okay,
me
that
a
is
lot
a
of
hot take. That's
no,
hot.
no, no. Listen,
That's
Google,
hot.
but
Fiery hot.
I feel like I can take Google's results with
Okay.
a grain of salt.
Goo-
And I'm gonna say one other thing real quick, and then I'm gonna let you talk.
I'm not bashing on Google.
I'm gonna
by
let
the
you
way.
finish. I'm gonna let you finish, but.
I'm not bashing on Google. I just want to let you know that.
But here's what I want to say: if you want to learn something, ask somebody who doesn't believe what you believe, or has a completely opposite point of view,
Yes.
and try to understand why
Where they're coming from.
where they're coming from.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to believe that.
No, but
You,
it's always good.
but keeping an open mind, I think, is one of the biggest things that we can do as a society to help like
For everything.
learn
Yes.
and maybe like not have so many friggin' like arguments. And if you're not on my team, then I don't like you anymore. Like
Yeah.
this causes divisiveness, and I don't like that. All right, I'm done.
So Google is a tool,
It's a tool,
Right.
absolutely.
and how
I'm
we
a
use
tool.
Google, we know, but we weren't going to talk about that. How we use Google depends on our ability to know how to use it well.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
So what you're talking about, if I want to learn about a subject, I'm going to go to Google, or hopefully,
Yep.
if I'm being my best self, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to look for the best argument for the position that I don't hold,
Yep.
and want to read about that because I want to engage with the best argument, not the meme argument, right? Because that's going to help me
Mhm.
understand
Yeah.
what the other
Feel man it.
position is,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So there's that. Also, oh gosh, I lost it. You said something earlier. You hit too many things. I need to take notes tonight.
Being-
Oh, my bad.
open-minded.
You need to do like James says. He takes
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah.
He's listening.
You
Yeah.
talked
Taught
about
us. He
being
taught us
open-minded.
Being
I have
open-minded.
a Google-related question that
Go-
maybe dovetails into the
Go ahead.
conspiracy theory discussion.
Go ahead.
I'm
James.
curious if you all think that AI-powered search will begin to displace Google's dominance when it comes to online searching, and then also, what do you think about AI-related conspiracy theories and the beliefs that maybe it's already conscious?
Well, before Etch goes into his AI conspiracy theory,
Thank you.
I'm just gonna say that Google already, the first results I get back from them is AI.
Yeah, they're
Now.
Gemini
Yeah.
first
Yeah, I was gonna
response.
say I think they're one and the same, really, aren't they? Because they're
Well, you scroll
I guess,
down and you
that's
get
a
the
good point.
traditional results, but it tries to
but they're
summarize
kind of
the
pulling from
results
each
for you.
other. I think.
Yeah.
is
I think
what's
it's even
happening.
interesting that Facebook, if you click on like an article, like, and you want to look at the comments, sometimes it'll say like the general understanding that we're finding is that people think blah blah
Oh,
blah
it gives
blah.
the AI summary.
Yeah, like an AI summary, which
Yeah.
I think is,
Hmm.
if it's completely, objective, then cool. Then it can.
Do you think it is?
But it's not. That's
it's hard to
still
believe
not
that it
being
could be.
objective though, because it's basing it off of the comments of the people that
Exactly.
have commented on it.
But
so.
it's a computer program, so a computer program, unless
it's just doing the calculation.
unless
of,
it truly becomes sentient, which I don't know if it.
All right. Now that's two ties into his theory.
All right,
Yeah,
go ahead.
this,
Go ahead,
this,
Etch,
this
you
is
can go.
this actually connects to the one of the previous podcasts
Right.
that we did.
But
Yeah.
Etch, give us a couple minute summary of a 60-second summary of
You got
of-
2 minutes.
Yep. And
Of
then we'll,
what?
then,
Of
then we'll
AI?
wrap.
Yeah.
Well, man, I don't know if we need that. Well, I think it's gonna take over eventually. It's already starting to.
In how many years?
I give it 3 years,
Yes.
4 years.
We need
Okay.
Sarah Connor,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's not that, dude. It's constantly like, so as humans, we only have so much like comprehension of what we can learn, right? It's proven. We can only learn so much. The AI will continuously learn. Always, continuously. That's what it's doing. It's always learning. It's always learning. So, I mean, it's not going to ever stop. Like when we go to sleep, we ain't learning, we're dreaming or we're resting. It's learning.
So you think it's like going to be the ultimate genius?
Oh, I think I think we've let it go too far already. I truly think that.
I think it'll be all right.
You can't stop it now, right?
We all got theories. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah. I mean, it's like a beast. It's like a snowball. You put a fucking snowball at the top of the hill and it gets big. You think you're going to get and stand in front of it, Joel, and stop it? Do you, Joel? When it's 1,000 pounds of snow.
You always
rolling
have
out
amazing
You gotta have a mountain's
analogies.
worth of snow for that snowball to get that big.
It'll be, first off, we're in Colorado and the hills are really big and there's a ton of snow.
We're
so
in
the
Illinois.
balls.
What are you talking about?
Your analogies, Etch, are always the
I know
best.
this dude.
We're not in Illinois. We are in the bottom of the steep of Colorado. and there's snow, and this ball is
He's
tumbling.
asking you to use your imagination.
Yes, your imagination sucks. All right.
Oh.
I had an older brother that didn't play with
Excuse
me, so I had a good imagination.
Same.
Gotcha.
That's the basis for a new conspiracy theory that Southern Illinois is actually.
At the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's a great way to finish this. We just gotta finish with that. That's
Yeah,
great.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all for the great conversation. I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. And we hope to do this again next time and hope you enjoy it. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Sheesh.
Bye.
Friends till the end, best for keep.